Hi, my name's John Cordy and I actually wrote the soundtrack to Seinfeld. I'm playing that on a keyboard, obviously. Right, anyway, so spoke about this kind of idea a little bit earlier on, and I was speaking to Igor, who's a Line 6 engineer, DSP nerd. And so what I showed him was that I was experimenting with an HX Stomp and a Quad Cortex, and I was chucking the HX Stomp Lone Star Clean into the Quad Cortex cabs and just comparing it to what the Quad Cortex amp model of the Lone Star sounded like. And I said, is there any way to kind of match those up a little bit closer? And what I was noticing, and what I think he was noticing, was there seemed to be like a little bit more of this moving air kind of feeling. Now, this isn't necessarily something that would really happen if you're going through a microphone, or in my experience, when you mic an amp, some of that sort of low-end feel and stuff seems to kind of go away. But yeah, so he suggested this as an idea to bring some of that back. And so what this is doing for me, I think, is bringing it closer to the feel of having an amp in the room. The reason being that if you've ever played with an amp in the room tends to get full up with these kind of thick, low tones, the sort of stuff that moves your trousers and all that. And that's what I think we're kind of getting to with this setting. So also it's something that I notice in the Fractal and Quad Cortex amp tones or whatever. When people talk about feel, for me, this is, I think, what they're noticing. So on the one hand, you could say this is like a bit of a woollier tone, a bit of a thicker tone, a bit of a weightier tone. On the other hand, you could say it's got more, low bass information, I guess. It's also sort of contrary to some of the advice that you might get on this stuff. So some people like to use low cuts and stuff on their cabs and all that kind of stuff. So this is just something to experiment with, and I've put this little switch here called the heft switch. So I'll just show you the effect of it. So hopefully you'll hear that it's adding in some of that kind of low-end information, and on driven tones and stuff I think this makes a bit more of a difference. So what are we doing here? So as I showed you on the Podgo this morning, we've got an EQ low-high shelf between the amp and cab, and it's pushing the low gain up by 12 dB at 150 hertz low frequency, and essentially what that is doing is kind of filling up that lower end of the spectrum a bit more, and getting you a bit close to that kind of amp in the room kind of feel. For me, the bass kind of elements are really what contribute to the idea of what a modeler or an amp or whatever feels like. So if you've ever experienced shelving kind of low end off, you know, around 400 or 500 hertz, if you've ever had like an in-ear gig and someone's shelved off the low end frequencies, for me that is the biggest thing that you can do to change feel. If you take away the bass aspects of a tone, suddenly things feel drastically digital, and it very quickly becomes a super unbalanced tone, and it feels like you're basically playing through a beehive. So this is doing like the opposite of that. You're kind of adding in some of this stuff that might happen in a real room. It wouldn't necessarily happen into a microphone because you don't pick up so much of the room sound with a microphone, but that kind of woofiness and that low end heft, I guess, which is why I called it heft. But give that a try and see what you think. I'm going to go and do some playing. I've got some clips that I probably chuck in that Eagle kind of tone matched and then sort of made an even bigger sounding clean tone with the Helix than what I was experiencing with the Quad Cortex, and I thought this was an interesting thing to try. So I've put together a couple of presets. So this is the Rec Combined preset, and so I'll show you the heft button here. So I think you'll find it to be sort of subtle in some ways. Maybe in headphones it will be more pronounced. I've got the speakers quite quiet for myself at the moment, but I think is a difference that is worth exploring if you're wanting to bring some of that kind of more of an amp feel into your tones. Something worth trying. So chuck this low high shelf between the amp and the cabinet, and I've got it here at +12 low gain and the low frequency at 150 hertz. I think it might make a difference to your tones. If you want to like and subscribe, you could. It's my birthday, so, you know, that'd be nice if you'd click the subscribe button or leave a comment and say this is a junk idea or whatever. But thank you for stopping by, and I'll catch you in another video soon. Cheers.